a month or two ago, we had quite a debate on GMOs. I think it was, we had Tom Philippot, I believe it was, on. We were talking about it, right? Or
we had him on, but it kind of extended.
the debate took
people get very emotional about that topic.
There is a very
it wasn't
strong
really a debate
emotion.
with him.
And we heard from a lot of people who are scientists who were upset at this anti-GMO movement because they... I'm sorry, Michael, what? Michael is like, he's curmudgeoning over there. We heard a lot of stuff from, in talking about the anti-GMO push. I think it was Cheerios decided to market the fact that they have no GMOs in their Cheerios. And we heard from a lot of scientists who were upset because they feel that because the preponderance of evidence of studies shows that GMO food does not create any bad health outcomes in people, that it was inherently anti-science to be against the propagation of GMOs. And the author of Black Swan, Nassim Taleb, who is a professor at risk engineering at NYU, wrote recently that the notion that GMOs may or may not be or are not unhealthy to consume by the individual is an incomplete risk assessment in and of itself. Taleb's conclusion in a new report is that GMOs could cause an irreversible termination of life at some scale, which could be the planet. He and his co-authors write in a new draft paper for Nature, the ruin, in quotations, is ecocide, an irreversible termination of life at some scale, which could be the planet. Genetically modified organisms fall squarely under the precautionary principle. Yes, I know, Michael. You were explaining all this. Let me get through this. The precautionary principle is that we should err on the side of caution if something has the potential of being really dangerous. Not because of the harm to a consumer, but because of their systemic risk on the system. And this is the distinction between, a lot of times we hear GMOs, we hear farmers have been doing this for centuries, for millennium. Crossbreeding different plants and creating a new species of plants. Now, aside from the fact that farmers have not been taking genetic material from different species and splicing them together, what is more relevant is that top-down, I'm reading from the report, top-down modifications to the system through GMOs are categorically and statistically different from bottom-up ones. Therefore, making the distinction between taking two plants, creating hybrids, there is no comparison between the tinkering of selective breeding and the top-down engineering of arbitrarily taking a gene from an organism and putting it into another. Saying that such a product is natural misses the statistical process by which things become natural, i.e., evolving over thousands of years in a natural ecosystem, or at least breeding over several generations. What people miss is that the modification of crops impacts everyone and exports the error from the local to the global. We should exert the precautionary principle there. Our non-naive version, simply because we would only discover errors after considerable and irreversible environmental damage. In other words, if you have farmers creating hybrids, it is necessarily a slow process, one which can be ended if something goes wrong, I create a potato that turns out to be bad for the system, well, I just stop growing it. It is not shipped out over the course of 5 or 10 years and becomes the dominant species. Calling the GMO approach scientific betrays a very poor, indeed warped understanding of probabilistic payoffs and risk management. The report goes on to talk about the notion of statistical principles that lead GMO supporters astray. They don't understand that, quote, interdependence creates thick tails, leading to a black swan catastrophic risk event. Fat tails result, among other things, from the interdependence of components, leading to aggregate variations becoming much more severe than individual ones. Interdependence disrupts the functioning of the central limit theorem, by which the aggregate is more stable than the sum of its parts. In other words, you introduce a new GMO product into the ecosystem, the implications of that are far greater than just a farmer creating a hybrid. Whether components are independent or interdependent matters a lot to systemic disasters, such as pandemics or generalized crises. Let's say each GM seed that's produced holds a 0.1% chance of somehow, in the intricately interdependent web of nature, leading to a catastrophic breakdown of the ecosystem. All by itself, it doesn't seem too harmful, but with each new seed that's developed, the risk gets greater and greater. It says, invoking the risk of famine as an alternative to GMOs is a deceitful strategy, no different from urging people to play Russian roulette in order to get out of poverty. So this is far more, I guess, academic and scientific way of saying the risks here are just far greater than the implications to any given consumer. Far greater. And that's the point. That really is the point. So when that 14-year-old girl smacked down that GMO guy, it was in service of that point.